Off Altero, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pretty Decent review of Obsession from 2026.
Welcome back. This is us doing it.
Yeah. And today I'm here, of course, by none other but NatterJohn.
Hello. Glad to be back on the channel again, Pretty Decent. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem, Nat. And yeah, today we're going to just be reviewing the movie Obsession. Myself and NatterJohn have seen this film. And yeah, we're going to give our thoughts, or opinions, or views on this film. And yeah, first of all, Nat, I just want to ask you a question. Are you into horror films, horror thrillers?
This is going to sound like the most contradictory thing you've ever heard.
Okay.
I do not like horror films, and yet my favorite film ever is a horror film. My favorite film is The Shining, actually. I think that film is amazing. I feel it's... Just generally, horror films aren't for me. I kind of think a lot of their plots rely on just characters making stupid decisions for the sake of progressing the plot forward. And that makes it really hard for me to get invested in them a lot of the time. And just in general, I don't find horror films that scary. Like, I feel the scariest ones to me are ones that are immersive, and I feel a lot of horror movies aren't. Like The Shining, you know, it's so kind of isolated feeling, and there's even, like, a lot of found footage movies I think are really good, just kind of like seeing it through the camera's lens. You know, even Paranormal Activity, which was made by Blumhouse, same company that made Obsession. But no, generally speaking, I don't watch a lot of horror films, so this was an interesting watch for me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd kind of be the same, Nat, if I had to really... overall say it. I wouldn't be the biggest into horror films. No, I do like horror films. Certain horror films I would like I like Scream, I like The Shining, as you said. In fact, I actually think The Shining in general is just a very good film. Like, even if you're not into horror films, there is just a lot in that film to take that I think is just makes it a very good film in general. And yeah, there's other films I like. I mean, I like It as well. Which again is based off another one of Stephen King's works, and you know, I mean, I suppose you could say Jaws is sort of a horror film as well, ish. I mean, there is a lot of horror elements in it, so that would be a film I'm really big into too. And of course, like the Nightmare on Elm Streets and you know all them, I would be into them as well. And like even the Paranormal Activities, you know, I do kind of enjoy them watching frequently. But as you said though, Nat, like about, you know, people in horror films making stupid decisions just to get the plot going forward, I would say, yeah, that is a very common trope in horror films. And, you know, yeah, and even like in this film to an extent there is a little bit of that as well, but we'll get to that. But overall, this film, Obsession, for me personally, I think this is one of the best movies to come out of 2026 so far. And I know that's saying a lot, but this film, to me, I think was just a really damn good movie. And what did you think of this film, Nat?
This is honestly going to be quite a hard film for me to review, because I think this film is really, really good, but it isn't a film for me. I feel this movie knew what it wanted its plot to be, and I think it's executed really well. But I feel like they didn't really have a resolution to it. I mean, we'll get into it when we get into spoilers later, because we will be talking about spoilers in this. But I just feel they didn't know how to end it, you know?
Okay. I understand.
Like they had a journey without a destination, if that makes any sense.
Okay, yeah. And, you know, it's interesting that you pointed that out, Nat, because... when I saw this film for the first time, I've actually seen this film 3 times now, and when I saw this film and then when I saw the ending of the film, I had the same sort of opinion as well. I thought the ending was a little bit, oh, geez, that's the ending? Oh, okay. I wasn't really too satisfied with the ending at first, but as I've come to watch the film now 2 and 3 times, like, I actually have come to really like the ending of this film for what it is. And yeah, I should say as well, for all you watching out there, we are going to be saying spoilers for this film, so if you have not seen Obsession, I will recommend that you go and watch Obsession before continuing with this video. Unless you don't care about spoilers, then stay tuned. And we're going to have Nat here describing the plot of this film, so go ahead there, Nat.
Alright, so Obsession is about a guy named Baron, or Bear, as we'll be calling him, because that's what he's called in the movie. And he wants to confess his, he wants to confess that he's attracted to one of his friends named Nikki. The film even opens with, like, a scene in a restaurant where he's kind of practicing on a waiter, and Ian keeps interrupting and giving him all this relationship advice and all that. But unfortunately, when Bear gets home that night, his cat dies, unfortunately.
Oh, trigger warning.
Which might seem like kind of an innocuous plot point, but it comes back like a lot throughout the story, surprisingly.
Yeah.
So, he's kind of depressed and he's staying in bed, and then Nikki gives him a call saying they're all meeting up at the bar and stuff for a trivia night. And Bear doesn't want to go initially, but then Nikki reveals like she's quitting her job or something, or that she's moving away, or both. I can't remember.
She was handing in her like I think it was like her 2 weeks notice because she wanted to like start a career in her writing, and that she said she writes love stories. It was.
Oh, how ironic given the plot of this movie.
Yeah, so ironic actually. Yeah.
But yeah, of course, Bear kind of feels bad. Then he wants to go. But then, offhandedly, Nikki mentions that she dropped her diamond necklace down the drain.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, no, it was a crystal necklace. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So much is lost on me. So Bear goes to a jewelry shop to get a replacement for her, But I think it was like, he couldn't find one that was exactly like the one she had before, or he wasn't sure if she'd like it, can't remember which one. But then something catches his eye, which is a one-wish willow. It's over on a shelf, and basically what the One Wish Willow is, it's basically like a tree branch that plays a little song, and then when you break it in half, you can wish for anything you want. Yeah. And Bear, just kind of out of curiosity, decides to buy it, and I think he plans on giving it to Nikki as well, but again...
No, he does, initially he plans to give it to Nikki.
Okay, I wasn't sure on that. So the bar night goes well, but then, Nikki asks Bear to drive her home, and when they get to her house, they have a bit of a standoff where Bear uses a nickname from her childhood that she kind of can't stand hearing anymore, called Freaky Nikki.
Ian's advice, man.
Ian was the one who advised him to do it.
Yeah, and it didn't go well.
So, Nikki asks if Bear likes her, and he says no. So they kind of part ways then, but then Bear starts to regret it, saying, "Oh, why didn't I confess?"
Yeah.
But then he has an idea. He pulls out the One Wish Willow, and he wishes for Nikki to fall in love with him.
Yeah.
And then when he looks up, you just see her standing, like, outside the door.
Yeah, literally like in this poster here.
Yeah, I think that is even the same shot, actually.
Yeah, I think it is as
or
well,
something like that. And then Nikki kind of falls in love with him, and Bear is really kind of put off at first. Like, for the next 10 minutes of the movie,
he's very shocked, because...
He doesn't sort of believe it at first. He kind of thinks she's acting weird.
Yeah.
But eventually things start to go well. He starts to warm up to her a bit, and they have a good relationship, but then he finds out that she's kind of gone obsessed. There's the title with him, and it's kind of... I don't know if you want to talk about the ending yet, but... bad things happen.
Yeah, we'll just say that a lot of bad stuff happens after that point, and yeah, like it really kind of starts off as like, the hopeless romantic, he makes the wish, and she starts, she starts really liking Bear, and coming to a point where they start dating even, and things start to look good, but then things get really kind of, she starts getting very obsessed. She gets to a point where she just cannot leave him out of his sight, and yeah, it gets really, really bad. But overall, Nat, what I have to say, my favorite thing about this film overall is really not just the story of this film, but the fact that, like, how this film was only made for $750,000, which, for a film that is peanuts, and yet this film still looks really, really good.
Oh, yeah. I feel it's, like, really simplistic, but in a good way. It
is simplistic, yeah, but I think it's simplistic in a perfect way, as in, like,
And like the amount, I can only like the profit this movie is making is unreal.
Yeah, I think
for an original IP.
Yeah, I think this film now has grossed over, I think it's like $330 million by the time of this recording, which is insane. And like the film is not even like, I think, like 2 months old. I think it's still in cinemas by the time of this recording, which is, yeah, it's crazy that this film is making so much money. But in a way, I am really glad that this film has gotten such attention because, you know, again, like I think the film's director, he was only a YouTuber, I think, before this. Before he made this film. I actually might send a link to his YouTube channel if I can find it.
So it's like Iron Lung.
yeah, it's actually very similar to Iron Lung. And in my opinion, though, Obsession is a much better film than Iron Lung. Just my opinion.
I still haven't even seen Iron Lung. I should watch it.
That's a story for another day. But yeah, there are a few things I do want to get across about this film, and some points I like to make. A lot of people have said about this film, you know, is Bear the villain of this film? Is he the antagonist of this movie? And in many ways, I would say, yeah, he is the antagonist, if I had to put it simply. But on the other hand, it's very interesting the way this film handles his character because, you know, at the very start of the film, you really are rooting for this guy. You know, this guy really does care about Nikki, and, you know, he's known Nikki for a long time, and you do want to see him succeed. But at the same time, he's very ridiculously shy. He's way too afraid to open out and be honest with his feelings. And to be honest, I will say, you know, if Bear was just honest to Nikki and that scene before he made the wish with the One Wish Willow, I feel this whole film could have been avoided. Like, all the horror from this film could have completely been avoided, but unfortunately, that was not the case.
Yeah, I feel it is really an unfortunate scenario. I feel though, the problem with Bear being the villain of this story is that I feel he's too sort of innocuous to be the villain. Like, I was even talking about it earlier, like, at first, he's kind of almost a bit put off by how sudden Nikki is kind of clinging on to him and all that. And there's even a scene, like, where Nikki temporarily snaps back to how she was before the wish, like, very early on.
Yeah,
and Bear kind of panics at first because he was worried he was doing something she didn't like. So he does, like, respect her boundaries and all. And I feel like a lot of it is being instigated by her. So that's kind of why I don't buy it. He's just a bit of a hopeless romantic who's gotten himself into a bit of a shitty situation.
Well, I suppose you could say that, yeah. And, you know, in many ways, you know, you could also debate that Nikki herself does become an antagonist later on in the film, which she does as well, but I
actually forgot to mention, there's even one point where he literally tries to cancel the wish.
Yes, but it's very interesting that people have noticed about that scene, though, because when he rings up the One Wish Willow Company, he doesn't immediately ask to cancel the wish. He actually initially asks, is there a way I could alter a wish? And then the one on the phone then replies saying, oh, would you like to cancel? And he goes like, oh, no, I'm just wondering if there's a way I can alter it. And then he said, we don't really do that. And then Bear then says, okay, then I would like to cancel the wish. And then, of course, he gets the reply back then from the company in the phone, we don't really do that either. And yeah, and it's, I mean, again, like, yeah, it's just a very interesting character dive, really, to Bear, because I feel like, you know, this film, especially with the title and everything like that, Obsession, a lot of people say, you know, is Nikki the one who gets obsessed with Bear? And yeah, she does get obsessed with him as the film goes on, but that's because of the wish, not really because of Nikki herself at all. And I think really and truly the one who was obsessed from the very beginning was Bear. And it came to a point, I feel, where, like, you know, his wish, again, like the message of the film, be careful what you wish for, the wish going horribly wrong, and, you know, he's just kind of stuck with it.
Yeah. What else do I want to say about that scene? I will, they do mention that if he dies, the wish will go away. And I'm gonna be honest, that is something I don't like about this film.
Oh, really?
Because to me, that seems like a huge plot hole. Like, what if you make a wish for, I'll just say, because it's a bit of a spoiler at the end of the film. Like,
Yeah.
Ian wishes for, like, $1 billion at one point.
Yeah.
Like, what if I become a billionaire? What if I wish for $1 billion? I became a billionaire, and like when I die, is the money just gonna disappear and my estate can't inherit it?
I mean, what I personally think, just what I believe about it, I think it's the fact that the wish is affecting another human being. You know, in this case with Nikki, I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the effing world. I feel like since it's especially what the wish was, love me more than anyone in the world, I feel like maybe that's the reason why when Bear dies, the wish would go away. Because
but like,
it's like the entity of the wish is taking over our mind, and it's just that entity, the whole purpose of the entity is just to be there for Bear. So when Bear dies, that entity would practically be gone, and it just my opinion now. I actually really like the idea of like the wish going away after he dies, because to me that makes the love that Nikki had for Bear even more fake, just to the point like even if Bear dies, the real Nikki is going to come back, and it's not going to be the same person that he was talking to throughout the whole film after he made the wish. And I think it just adds another little bit of tragedy to the story,
Well, again, I feel like that's just kind of adds to it though, because love can persist after death. Like, we can even see when he does die, because he does die at the end of the film. Spoilers.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, of course. But like, she initially like wants to kill herself. Like, she has the pistol in her mouth, but then the curse suddenly wears off. Like, that I almost think would have been a creepier ending. Like, she ended up getting so obsessed with him, loving him so much that she was literally willing to kill herself just to follow him, just because she couldn't live without him, and just kind of follow him to the afterlife or something.
Well, I mean, she did try to kill herself at the end. Like, she was literally so close to actually killing herself.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's better if that rule that the wish goes away if you die didn't exist, because I just feel that'd just add to the creepiness of it, just showing just how just far gone she's gone, that she's willing to just sort of kill herself just I guess it's kind of hard for me to talk about this because it's so personally,
I guess agree to disagree, Nat.
Yeah.
Is all I can say for that. Agree to disagree. Personally, I actually do like that detail, but fair enough. I can see why you wouldn't like that detail. I could totally get why as well. But there's also a lot of things I do want to mention about this film. I actually even have like a list of things I'd like to talk about as well. And first of all, I want to point out, like, at the beginning, when Bear's cat dies, I also noticed, when Bear was like crying at the start, of the film, he wasn't crying over the fact that his cat was dead. He was crying for Nikki, man. Which I think really even hammers more the obsession that Bear has for this girl.
But how do we know it was because of Nikki?
Because he says under his breath, "Why can't she?"
Oh, fair enough. I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice it my first watch, actually, but like it was only when I think my second watch, when I watched it with you and Nat actually as well, I noticed that he says, "Why can't she?" And it really is, him just honestly just kind of feeling very sorry for himself, that he just that he doesn't have the guts to actually tell her how she feels, and he probably fears rejection, which he probably does, like, but in many ways I feel like, again, kind of later when he was put in the spot, and with Nikki in the car, and Nikki says, do you like me? I feel like if he did actually tell her the truth, and even if she said no, he would have at least gotten clarity.
Yeah.
I
guess it just goes to show another message: fear is temporary, regret is forever.
That's true. That's a really good point in this film as well. They really do like shove that a lot, like, and what I actually love about this film as well, I actually found out from the director as well. He actually did different takes with Nikki and Bear. He did one take where he asked the actress who played Nikki, Indy Navarrete, which Actually, before I get into that, I just want to say Indy Navarrete's performance in this film. Oh my gosh, man. She needs to get an award. She has to get nominated for an award at least, because her performance in this film, I feel, was unbelievable.
The way she flip-flops is kind of crazy at times.
It is so crazy, but like it just goes to show how like great of an actress she is. Like,
she used to be a Call of Duty streamer, actually.
Yeah, she
which really kind of adds to the whole YouTube movie vibe this has.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it really does. And like, it's kind of interesting too, because she has been in a few things, but like this is really her big break. Like, I think she was in a few TV shows. She was in Superman and Lois, which I actually have not seen, and despite being a Superman fan, I still have not seen that show. And she was also in 13 Reasons Why, but I don't think she had really like any large roles in them shows at all. But this is really her big break now, you know, into really Hollywood fame, I would say. And you know, it's great to see some new talent, I feel, in cinema. You know, I always love seeing new actors and actresses putting on, like, you know, such great performances in movies, and you know, setting an example of, you know, what's yet to come, you know, in Hollywood and just in cinema in general. And yeah, and back to my point there as well, with the scene with Bear when he didn't, you know, say how he felt about Nikki. The director, actually, he did 2 different cuts. He asked in one cut for Nikki to look like that she was interested in Bear, and he also asked her to do a cut where she was not interested in Bear. And
which was the one that got used, if I can ask?
Would you believe? Both of them simultaneously were used, because he wanted to create the ambiguity, you know, let the audience fill in the blanks, like let the audience realize, was she actually into Bear at all or not? And you know, on my first watch of this film, I actually felt like she had no interest in Bear, especially when she said, like, later on in the film, you know, when she like wakes up, you know, during the night while the entity's asleep, and Bear said she begs Bear to kill her, and she says, "I was never with you, Bear." And you know, at first I was like, yeah, okay, I feel like she was not into Bear, especially as well earlier on, you know, in the scene where, you know, Bear gets in bed with her and they sleep together, and she starts kissing him, and then like she almost wakes up and she's like, "Oh my god, what the fuck?" And then, like, you know, I thought she was not into Bear at first, but as I watched the film for a second time, I actually feel like maybe there could have been some potential romance, because, you know, which, you know, funny enough, in the most iconic meme scene, no, don't do that, the scene in the restaurant, right before that scene, she actually says to Bear that, you know, that she always thought Bear was a closed book. So I feel like, you know, she did want to at least get to know Bear a bit more, like, about, you know, who he was, and, you know, he was always, I think, just way too shy to express how he actually felt about Nikki, and, you know, whether she really actually liked him, like loved him or not, I really don't know. Maybe not. But I think it's the fact that Bear never had the guts to actually be, like, you know, confident and to be honest with Nikki, like, really kind of just led to his downfall, you know.
Yeah, again, I will reiterate, fear is temporary, regret is forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally forever in this, because... I thought the wish included him saying forever and ever, but it doesn't. That's my false memory.
Yeah, no, that's actually later on in the film when, like, Nikki's going completely psycho and she's like, "We're gonna be together forever."
Yes, and it also reminded that line. Yeah. I know this is an aside, but it reminded me of that one Scared Shrekless short, which did something very similar, where Gingy makes a gingerbread woman who falls in love with him, and she goes chasing after him, going forever, together forever, yeah, forever and ever, and just, oh my god, that was the OG of this.
Yeah, that's the OG obsession. Oh my god.
The fact that the gingerbread woman has the same voice as Mabel from Gravity Falls just makes it funnier. But anyway, that's an aside. And I feel like there's a lot of escalation in this film, I think.
There is,
almost to its detriment. Like, I feel just kind of stuff happens with no real build-up. Like, there's this one scene where, like, Bear just wakes up and Nikki's just staring at him in the dark. And it comes out of complete nowhere.
I was actually going to... that was literally my next thing I was going to talk about.
Oh,
was that
sorry.
scene.
I'll let you get into it then.
No, you're grand, you're grand. I was going to say, when Nikki was watching Bear sleep during the night, she actually had makeup on for that scene in the dark. And I'm actually going to probably put an image of, like, the makeup, what it looked like. And I did not notice that my first time watching the film. But the fact they went to that extra level of detail, to make her face look more uncanny with the makeup, I think is such a cool little detail.
You can even see it happen, like, later in the movie, where Bear leaves for work and she's left home alone, and then she starts to pee herself.
Yeah,
and you can literally see her, like, skin turning purple and all that.
Yeah. She's literally just standing there smiling. And she was literally just standing there for his whole shift at work, like, and yeah.
I'll be honest, when I first watched it, I thought there was two ways it was gonna go. The first I won't say because it's kind of morbid, but the second one, I thought they were gonna do like a Metroid Fusion SAX thing, where she like transforms into a big monster or something.
Really?
I'm sure somebody watching will get that reference.
Yeah, I've not played that game, so I would not know.
Basically, there's like it's basically, for a abridged explanation, it's like, there's a clone of Samus, like a parasite clone Samus, and at the end when she's about to defeat it, it like morphs into this huge kind of monster and all that.
Yeah.
I really thought that was where it was going, but no, that wasn't it.
I also want to point out in this film, Ian is a terrible friend to Bear in this movie.
I mean, he's the one who gives them the advice to call her Freaky Nikki in the first place.
And I actually feel he purposely said that to Bear, because later on in the film we actually find out from a character called Sarah, which we actually forgot to mention that character earlier, but she has a big plot.
She kind of doesn't come into play until later in the movie anyway, to be
fair. Yeah, that is true, but Sarah, anyway, she's this other character that works in the same record store as Nikki, Bear, and Ian, and she has a crush on Bear. She actually does have a crush on Bear, which is kind of funny because like even earlier in the film, Nikki says to Bear, "How do you feel about Sarah?" And like, it's so obvious that Sarah likes you, and Bear just had no interest whatsoever, and he was just so fixated on Nikki that he never really like imagined being with Sarah. And it's kind of interesting too, because Sarah actually genuinely does like Bear for who he is. As we can see, she's the only one who actually like mourns with Bear when Bear says that his cat died.
Yeah. And that's like the real kind of... That's really kind of the tipping point for him at the start of the movie, because...
Yeah.
And like the cat is like brought up throughout the entire movie after this, just kind of... He's always being given condolences for his cat, and then... For some reason, the possessed Nikki does a lot of weird stuff with the cat.
Oh,
like, she makes a seance for it at one point.
Yeah, and then
but then the really bad part is when she makes a lunch for him and she puts his cat in a sandwich.
Oh man, that was nasty. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was so nasty. But again, I think it just adds another layer to like, the wish just completely making Nikki just a psycho, like. Literally, and it really gets the Freaky Nikki point across, in the film. And there was more things I wanted to talk about too. Like, I noticed another detail as well. After Bear makes the wish, I noticed Nikki started dressing differently, like a lot differently after the wish. I noticed she was dressing up in a lot more red. And even like the montage scene where they look happy together, if you ever notice, Nikki actually looks like the waitress at the beginning of the film when they're watching TV. Do you know the scene when they're watching TV and she keeps looking at Bear? And she had the bandana on. She nearly looked exactly like the waitress, which is just something very interesting I noticed in the film.
I didn't pick up on that at all, actually.
I didn't pick it up my first time watching it, but it was only when I rewatched the movie I actually noticed these little details. And I think that there's just some very cool, interesting little details I noticed about the film. And again, I think that, again, is the wish playing on Nikki. Making Nikki dress more appealing to Bear. Make... I suppose my interpretation is I say it's the wish affecting, Nikki to dress up and make Bear more comfortable to talk to.
Yeah.
Or to be open to. That's my guess, I'd say, why they did end the film. And earlier on as well, I actually forgot to mention about Ian, and Sarah. Later in the film, Sarah actually says to Bear in the car, right before her death, spoiler alert, Nikki kills her in a very violently morbid way. In fact, I actually would say Sarah's death is like the real only kind of like very gruesome horror scene in the film.
Yeah,
even though there is a lot of scary scenes in this film as well, there's a lot more scary scenes. But like, I feel like the scary scenes, in this film, they play very well into the story. I feel, into the sense of dread, I would say.
I'll actually say that. I probably should have said this when we started, but I don't actually think this film is scary.
Yeah.
I think it's eerie, but it's not scary.
To me, the scariest thing about this movie is not the fact that like it was the wish even taking over Nikki. To be honest, the scariest thing about this film is like how relatable it is. Like the fact that Bear, he's this guy who really likes a girl, which is very common in a lot of people. Like both men and women to be really into this person, but not having the confidence to talk to them, and they eventually this wish that he makes, that he hoped would kind of work, but like he obviously thought it was just going to be like a complete trinket that wasn't going to work, ends up working, and it eventually just ruins his life completely and ruins the life of others. It's really like
they even like show after Sarah dies, she gets like accepted into art college, and she doesn't even have a chance to open her acceptance or denial letter yet. And we literally see Bear open it, and he sees she was in fact accepted. Like she really had her whole life ahead of her.
Oh, she had her whole life. And man, honestly, that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie because it adds another layer of tragedy to the story. And like, I just love Bear's reaction. He just screams out of the top of his lungs and starts crying and starts like honestly feeling guilt. He's really feeling a lot of guilt in himself, and like obviously he feels probably accountable and responsible for her death as well. And it's really tragic, man. It's very, very tragic. But again, it has to go to the actors as well. The actors did a phenomenal job, playing all the characters. Honestly, I think the actors were just perfect for their roles.
Yeah. The actors are really good in this movie. I mean, although Indy Navarrete steals the show, of course. Although I do really like Bear's actor as well. Yeah, no,
Bear's actor I think was phenomenal as well. I feel like he really captured the character like perfectly. Like this really shy guy, who's really just afraid to be honest about himself. And another thing I just want to notice as well, I feel like Bear's character, he is a very lonely guy, man. He's a very lonely guy. Like, I know he's friends with Ian and he's friends with like Nikki and Sarah as well, but like they're really just more like work buddies, I feel, for him. They're not really like, people he'd like meet up personally one-to-one, like, maybe Ian, but again, Ian is a really bad friend, and I'll actually get to reason why I feel Ian is such a bad friend. I'm just going to say it straight up. The reason why Ian is such a bad friend, again, I still haven't said it. Sarah, before her death scene, she says straight out to Bear that Nikki and Ian were having an on and off affair for the past 2 years. Which, honestly, man, when I very first heard her say that, it didn't make me mad about Nikki, but it made me mad about Ian, because Ian was this guy that Bear trusted and, was so open about how he felt about Nikki. And I feel like, Ian just took advantage of that. And I feel like he purposely wanted to sabotage Bear's chance by, call her Freaky Nikki and all this, because he knew that she would not like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I there is hints in the film as well that Ian was so jealous about Bear and Nikki being together, because they're in the montages where they're like kissing at work and, you know, being with each other, you can kind of see him looking over. Same with Sarah as well. You can see Sarah is jealous, but that's obviously because Sarah liked Bear, and that was for like a different reason. But yeah, man, I just think Ian is a very, very bad friend for Bear. A really like just awful a guy, really, in truly. And, you know, even though he's not in like a whole lot of the film, I feel like he was another big reason why Bear ended up the way he did, because I feel like he was really kind of trying to get his hopes up too much just for his own amusement.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just a really shitty thing for him to do, honestly. But again, it just adds more layers to the characters in this film, I feel, you know. And yeah, and I also want to mention as well, what else was I going to mention? Yikes. I feel like Bear as well in this movie, he did not love Nikki for who she was, really. He loved the idea of being with Nikki.
I don't know.
Now, when I mean now, like, I don't think Bear loved Nikki. Like, did he like her? Absolutely, he did like her, and he absolutely had an attraction for her. But I feel like, you know, what I mean, I don't think Bear really loved Nikki. I don't think he really had an actual love for who Nikki was. For example, you know, earlier on in the film, you know, even before the wish at the bar, you know, Nikki, she's very cheeky. She's very, you know, she's a bit of a smart arse. She kind of makes jokes about, you know, Bear's drink and all that, and Bear is not really like that at all. He's a lot more, you know, kind of, you know, he's a lot more polite. He's a lot more kind of, you know, introverted in a way. And, you know, even when Nikki makes fun of his drink, you know, saying, "Oh, I like a man that's in touch with their feminine side," he's like, "Oh, don't make fun of my drink." Like, obviously, he's kind of laughing and joking around, but at the same time, you know, I feel like even if they were together without the wish, I feel like their relationship would have not worked, man.
No, fair enough.
I don't think they would have. I think they were very different people, the two of them, in some ways.
I don't know. I don't think we see enough of how Nikki is before the possession or the wish is made. I keep calling it the possession.
Yeah,
but
well, it is sort of a possession.
Yeah,
like, it is a possession.
I don't know. I don't think there's enough of that in the movie to draw an actual conclusion on that, in my opinion.
Well, you know, I would actually agree in that, because, like, again, earlier I kind of said, did Bear have a chance with Nikki or not? And I feel like the ambiguity is, like, you know, he could have. I could if they worked out together. I mean, I know I just said they probably wouldn't have, but I feel like really if Bear was just more confident and much more, like, you know, truthful to himself and to the people around him, maybe they could have been together, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I feel like that's why what makes this film so good is, like, a lot of, you know, there's a lot of this in this film, there's a lot of, like, let the audience fill in the blanks. You know? Which I think is really cool, because I feel like that allows, you know, the audience to, like, you know, come up with their own ideas in the film. And it's a great example of, like, show, don't tell, you know. Let the audience fill in the blanks and let them come up to their own conclusion. Yeah. Overall, though, man, this film Obsession, I'd say we're going to get to our rankings and of this movie. Personally, I was going to give this film a 9 out of 10, but honestly, after watching this movie for 3 times, I'm going to have to give it a 10, man. Because I feel like this is one of the first films I've seen in a long time, you know, made by, you know, on a small budget by, you know, a lot of, like, indie filmmakers and actors as well, which is
indie
kind of
never ending.
Yeah. Yeah, literally, how ironic.
It was just like, whoa.
But yeah, but, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that it's made by, like, you know, a very, you know, a team that was, you know, not known at all, and it's gaining so much success, I have to give it a 10, man. I have to give it a 10, and it's spouting so much conversation, and loads of people are, you know, praising this film, and I think the praise is very well deserved for this film. And just before I want to say anything else, I actually forgot to mention the score in this film is absolutely phenomenal, I feel. The score in this movie, I feel, just captures this film's tone, this film's isolation, and just so well.
Yeah, I will say personally, even though I don't like the film, I'll probably give it a 70%, like 7 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Because I do think the premise is really good, and I think it's shot very well, and I think it's acted very well. But I really just don't like how this film ends. I think it just really, really loses the plot.
Yeah.
It got no pun intended. Like, it really just goes, like, completely insane. Like, Bear goes back into the jewelry store to buy another One Wish Willow.
Yeah.
And he's, like, covered in, like, Sarah's blood and shit, and I'm just like, what is anybody doing?
Yeah.
The guy just walked into the jewelry shop, his clothes completely stained in blood, and nobody cares.
I will admit, I feel like, at the point where, like, Nikki does kill Sarah during the car, I feel like I was just kind of like, okay, at my first watch anyway, I was like, okay, Barry, you should have just called 911 at that point, like, send her to get her arrested, send that girl to jail, like, but at the same time, though, as I rewatched the film, he probably couldn't have even bring her at all, I'd say, because she was so attached to him, she wouldn't even let him go to the bathroom or anything.
But the thing is, there's an entire plot point. It's where she gets left home alone because she's off and he has to go to work. So he's gonna get some time away from her at some point.
Yeah. I mean, again, you could also debate, maybe he might thought he might have gotten in trouble if he called 911 as well. He might have been somewhat responsible.
I mean, yeah, but like, what could be worse than what he's already in?
Bear is, and I'm just going to say it straight out, Bear is a coward in this movie. He's very cowardly in this movie. He's very afraid to, confess to Nikki. And I'm not saying that makes him a bad character. It's another interesting layer to his character. Like, he's a very shy, very nervous guy, And I feel like the fact, he came to this point where, Nikki was just going off the rails. He probably felt somewhat responsible for it because it was his wish.
Yeah. But
it was his burden to take.
Yeah, like I said, good movie, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
But I can't really say I like it all that much because it's just the ending ruins it for me.
Yeah.
It's like I said at the start. I just think they had a story they wanted to tell, but not an ending to that story.
Yeah. And
it's just very not well paced, in my opinion.
And I just want to point out the ending as well. At the very end of this movie, Bear is in the bathroom. He has a gun that Nikki had, and she was going to shoot herself, but eventually she doesn't. And Bear goes to the bathroom. He has the gun, and he's made the decision he's going to commit suicide. Yikes! And at first he was thinking to shoot himself, but he doesn't have the strength or courage to. He's not going to shoot himself. He doesn't shoot himself. So then he takes an overdose of pills. And it's very interesting because after he takes the overdose of pills, immediately tries to puke them back up. But it doesn't work. And eventually he goes out, he sees Nikki, and then Nikki's covered in blood, smiling at him, and he just looks over, he smiles, and he's also covered in blood.
But it's because she used a One Wish Willow on him.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, you can hear it, the sound of the One Wish Willow snapping as he's trying to... That's why he doesn't vomit the most, because he tries to, but then you hear the One Wish Willow snap, so we're supposed to infer that she made a wish for her to be with him. Which is why he just suddenly goes out to her after all that.
Oh, that's actually very interesting.
I'm surprised you didn't pick up on that.
I actually didn't pick up on that. Oh my gosh, that's a very interesting point, Nat, actually. Do it's actually interesting you point out, because I actually did see that being talked about here and there across multiple TikToks and that, and I didn't really... I actually didn't hear it, but... So that actually was actually in the film?
Yes, I heard it.
Oh, that's actually very, very interesting. Wow, cool. And yeah, that's actually very cool as well, because that's a good little detail as well, because that means at the end of the film both of them were possessed by wishes, and like I feel like that's the only actual time you could say in a very twisted way both of them actually were in love with each other. for like a brief time.
I feel it's just kind of another missed opportunity though, because again, I said at the earlier, I think it almost would have been better if when he died, she kind of killed herself too, just to show how far gone she was. But another ending I think could have worked is that neither of them die, and they both fall in love because of the One Wish Willow, and it's just kind of a really creepy ending. They're just this.
I mean, I do actually like the fact that Nikki is the only one that like survives in the end, because you know, there's just so much, you know, all the main characters, like, you know, the out of all the 4 main characters, the 3 of them die, and the fact that there's still one left, I feel, you know, it just doesn't make the film, you know, the film is depressing enough as it is, but the fact that one still kind of survives, it does add that little bit of, like, you know, survivor's guilt, you could say, maybe, or I don't know how to describe it. I just like that there's at least one that survives, do you know? It's not just everybody dies, the ends, you know, a SpongeBob meme, do you know, like, that kind of a thing. But yeah, and I actually have heard as well that there's going to be a spin-off of this film, which one thing I really hope this film doesn't do, I really hope they don't milk the franchise of this film.
I feel this is one of those films where I don't even know what you could do for a sequel that isn't just retreading old ground.
I mean, I feel like there is potential for a sequel, but again, a sequel or a spin-off, it has to be like, you know, completely different characters, completely different setting, and I think as well even in a completely different town. And, you know, obviously since Nikki's alive, there's probably going to be some connection to Nikki. A lot of people think, oh, she's just going to end up in prison forever and whatever, and, you know, she probably will, but at the same time, I've heard some theories going around that Nikki, she might, like, you know, have moved away country, moved away city, she might have changed her identity, and, you know, maybe they might try and prove the One Wish Willow really works in a court or something, you know, there might be some more investigation put on the One Wish Willows, which, I think it would be a really cool idea and really cool way. I'm on board for a sequel. I'm on board for a spin-off. If they find a good way to continue the story, not just do a repeat of this film. But yeah, for what this film is overall, I really enjoyed this film. I think it's still one of the best films I've seen in 2026 so far. By the time of this recording. And man,
my favorite film of the year is still Michael.
Yeah, I'd say Michael I do prefer just a little bit more, just because I think it was a bit more of a positive watch as well. And, you know, I'm a big fan of Michael Jackson as well, so yeah, but they are very different films. I feel like the reasons why I love Obsession is completely different to the reasons why I love Michael Jackson.
Oh, of course, obviously,
you know?
I'm just saying, like, favorite film just in general.
Yeah, no, I understand it, yeah. Probably the same for myself too, but yeah, man, I really have to give this film a 10 out of 10 for me personally. But yeah, those are our thoughts and reviews, ladies and gentlemen, of Obsession, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and go to Mahagot.
Pretty decent, yeah, we're having a laugh. Our reviews are gonna be pure class, so click and subscribe, come join the crack. Pretty decent's always got your back.